All right, so let's continue with this actual configuration of a local EAP authentication server. Now, what we've done so far is we've configured the wireless LAN controller to have a database, right? That's what we did on the last slide, a database of users and passwords to gain access. But now we have to actually configure the wireless LAN itself to push out to those APs our type of configuration. So let's go out and take a look at our environment. We are going to start with, let me move this around to like kind of scramble the tiles, so to speak. So we have to select wireless LAN. Once we've selected wireless LAN, you have to select the actual wireless LAN. And we get to the general tab. You can see all the general information. We need security here. And we need to jump onto our AAA server. So do we have a radius server interface overwrite? Do we need anything for layer 3? No, we don't have any web policies there. Layer 2, what are we doing here? Do we have EAP or 802.1x? If we do have 802.1x, how are we doing our encryption? WPA or WPA2? What type of authentication are we using there? Our pre-shared key, are we using a pre-shared key format? So what are we using in this environment? Well, we're using our wireless LAN controller as what? What are we using it for? Let's jump back out to that slide and take a look. They said we're using layer 2 security, or are we using a AAA server? So we're using a AAA server. Remember, we're using that wireless LAN controller as an authentication server. So let's go back to our environment and take a look. Our AAA server right here, if we go down, we can see LDAP servers, none. Interim updates, none. Local EAP authentication, that's what we need to enable. Our profile name, this is the profile that we created. Our local auth or our employees, which is the one we wanted to use? Employees, remember. So we're going to select employees here. And then we have our order used for authentication. We can see our local server is listed here, then radius and LDAP. This is exactly what we want. We actually probably don't want to use radius. We don't want to use LDAP because it may not exist in an environment. Only local authentication to this particular wireless LAN controller. So we are at the AAA authentication. We are near the bottom for local EAP authentication. We saw that. We have our profile name attached, and then when we click apply, that's when the settings take place for this wireless LAN. So this wireless LAN, any APs that are participating in this wireless LAN, we are now going to, anyone who associates with those APs associated with this wireless LAN are going to come here for local EAP authentication. Those names better be in the database or they are not going to be able to connect. We have our EAP profile set up. Our EAP profile is for employees. This is PEEP authentication. Remember, we set that up. PEEP authentication for this particular wireless LAN. If we go back to security and we go back to our local net users, we can see this is the database of users that is going to be accepted on this wireless LAN. If we take a look at our local EAP and our profiles, our employees are listed here, and it's using what? PEEP. I can even do a local certificate if I want, a client certificate requirement if I want. Our issuer is Cisco, but I can also download a certificate if I needed to. Look at the security code if you need, security course if you need to review that. Check CA certificates is enabled. So we're going to actually require those pre-shared key certificates, right? That lets us encrypt back and forth those keys. So very important that you understand this process and the configuration. I'm not sure why they separated the configuration of this from the security course. I wish they didn't. But if you are having problems with anything we're talking about, we spend a lot of time on the EAP process, the PEEP process, the LEAP process, all these extensible authentication protocol processes and how they actually work in that part of the course. So really, really a lot of information here. But notice that we did have the ability at the local level to turn our lowly wireless LAN controller into an authentication server. Problem was, when we look at our actual local net users, I have to build this out one by one. So if I have 200 employees, that's kind of a bear. I'm not a big fan of that. I'd rather point to an existing infrastructure, such as Active Directory, LDAP, Open Directory, anything, any type of directory service through a radius server to actually get in my users.